this looks weird. I feel like it looks like an interview because I'm just sat on the bench. Today's video, I really want to talk about something that I just feel so triggered by, to the heights of triggery, yeah? To the heights of trigonometry. Obviously, you'll tell by the title of this video, it's called The Pressure of Purpose. I feel like if you clicked on this video, you probably have or are experiencing this feeling of stress and impending doom because you don't know what you want to do with your life. You don't know what you want to do in your life. You don't feel like you have this grand, massive, like, passion and this mission for your life that is like, this is all I want to do and nothing else, but this is what I want to do. As soon as I was in my mother's womb, from conception, when the egg cell met the sperm cell, I knew I wanted to be a writer. Like, you know, them kind of stories there that people that some people do have that kind of story for their life, and you're just like, this isn't me, is there something wrong with me, etc, etc. Something that, especially over the past like 2-3 years or so, I've been thinking a lot about purpose. As soon as that concept comes into your life and you don't know what you want to do, I feel like the Mr. Crab meme, where it's like this pressure of not knowing what you want to do. Are you on the right path? Are you failing? Like, and watching other people maybe be successful and you thinking you know what you want to do, but then when you really think about it, you're just like, nah, this isn't what I expected it to be. And I spoke about this a little bit on Snapchat. I'm going to insert the snaps here. Because you're so pressured into, like, you must choose a career path and you must, you know, this is your purpose. You almost make it fit into that box of purpose, but then deep down you know that something doesn't feel right here, but you're too scared to explore it because you feel like, no, if I explore something different, then I'm wasting time. Oh yeah, I was wearing my little headscarf. If you don't have me on Snapchat, you can add me, although my story might be on private still, but it is what it is. Bear in mind, like, over the course of the week and stuff like that, I've been thinking about purpose and the pressure of it and what am I going to do in my life and where am I and am I failing and all of this stuff. So then when I go on Spotify, the synopsis of this Oprah Soul Food podcast is by Elizabeth Gilbert. So basically she invites guests, Oprah invites guests. So Elizabeth Gilbert is the woman that made Eat, Pray, Love. I still need to read that book actually. So this is the synopsis. New York Times best-selling author Elizabeth Gilbert is known for following her passion, but says she no longer advises others to do the same. Instead, Elizabeth makes the case to follow your curiosity. Elizabeth says she believes the word passion can trigger feelings of stress and pressure. Let me just reload it. Elizabeth Gilbert says she believes the word passion can trigger. Remember how I said trigonometry? Yeah. Trigger feelings of stress and pressure, and doesn't even know if she believes in it anymore. At some point in your life, you were told, chase your passion, she says. Not everyone knows how to answer that command. If I speak in this place today, you know when something is such confirmation of what you've been thinking in your head, but you don't know how to articulate it. When I saw that synopsis, I said, whoa. A lot of people don't know how to answer that command of saying follow your purpose and follow your passion, because I feel like, speaking for myself, what I enjoy is on so many different sides of the spectrum. At one point I wanted to be a neuroscientist and I love science. At one point, well, I do want to write a book one day, but I'd love to be an author, I'd love to be a presenter, I'd love to be a lawyer, I'd love to be so many different things that don't fit neatly into a box. So when someone says something like follow your passion and what's your purpose in life, it's very triggering because it doesn't fit neatly into a box, and it causes you pressure and stress because you think to yourself, maybe there's something wrong with me, or oh my god, I still haven't figured it out, and you think that it's this thing to figure out. So I took some notes of some of the things that she said that I think are really, really important, and I kind of want to expand on and talk about in this video. A lot of the time when, you know, people that are successful and stuff like that, knowingly or unknowingly, when they're given advice, it's very much, you know, follow your passion, follow your one true path in life. I always knew what I wanted to be when I grew up, and it doesn't really provide you with any tools to actually figure out what you want to do in life. And it can be some of it can be motivational, but at certain points, especially if you're someone that may not have one chosen skill set and one chosen path and one chosen passion, that you always knew you wanted to be a model, you always knew you wanted to be a writer, that doesn't really help you, that doesn't really give you the tools, and it still puts a lot of pressure on you because you're like, oh well, this person always knew what they wanted to be, so maybe if I just think hard enough, maybe if I work hard enough, I'll figure it out. And in that podcast, this woman is really saying, like, that puts too much pressure on us. And she's saying she was one of those people that she always knew she wanted to be a writer and stuff like that. but she quickly realized, because she had some talk where she was talking about passion and purpose, and yeah, and this girl wrote on her Facebook page,
Elizabeth, I just went to your talk and I have never felt worse about myself. You and people like you always do these talks and talk about passion and following your passion and purpose, but for someone like me, I like so many things and I do so many things, and it just makes me feel like a failure because I just don't know what my passion is. I don't have one. I like many things.
and the woman basically said in the podcast that made her open her eyes and look at the people around her in her life, the people that she admires, the people that she goes to for advice, like her actual close friends and family. And a lot of those people have had journeys that aren't linear, and they aren't this straight path to this one thing and this one goal, and their lives have been informed by so many different career changes and events and things like that, and it shaped them into the people that they are, and to have the influence that they have. And they may not necessarily have this one purpose in life, but they're making it, they're successful, they're living, you know, fulfilled lives. And I think sometimes, because she even said in this podcast, because like passion and purpose is fetishized so much in society, like, oh, this is my purpose and all of these things. For some people, life is their passion and purpose. Like, it's just life, like doing life, experiencing life. And I felt so, you know, when you just feel like something is speaking to your soul, and yes, finally somebody gets it. She presented this idea that rather than following your passion and the pressure and the weight that the word passion has, how about following your curiosity? And she was talking about how, like, with curiosity, yeah, it's a much gentler force. Like, when you're curious about something, it's like, I'm kind of interested in this. Oh, I want to know a little bit more about this. And it's less demanding on you. It's less stressful. It's less strenuous. It takes less out of you to think, what am I curious about? Let me try follow that. And everyone has something, even if it's a little bit that they're curious about. When you follow curiosity, she was talking about how curiosity is like the little clues that God leaves in your life, step by step by step by step, and it will take you somewhere. And you know what? That's what I'm gonna do. And who gonna check me, boo? Who gonna check me, boo? There's this almost embarrassment of not having it all figured out that is very real. This embarrassment of, I know I'm smart, I know I can apply myself, but why am I not? Something's not clicking, something's not connecting. What if people think I'm dumb? What if people think I'm a failure? This is embarrassing. Let's see what happens when we follow our curiosity and not just try and fit everything into this neat, tidy box of purpose and passion. And one of the things that she said was, following her passion worked for her because she always knew what she wanted to do. And then she was talking about how in life, I don't really like when people categorize people, but I think for the purpose of this video, no pun intended, purpose. For the purpose of this video, look at people in two ways. Some people are hummingbirds and some people are jackhammers.
Can I just say, so like, Bobo the damn fool, I was calling woodpeckers jackhammers this whole video, so please refer to the fact that every time I say jackhammer, I really mean woodpecker. Thank you.
Continuously. Some people are like that, where they have this one goal in mind. I want to be a writer, I want to be a model, I want to be a doctor and save lives, or I want to open an orphanage, or whatever the hell. I don't know, listen. I want to be a Instagram baddie, I don't know, whatever it is in it. Like, they have that one vision, so they can focus on that, and they're trailing it and they're killing it, cool. And then some people are like hummingbirds, where, you know, they go from place to place, they're a bit less, they go from place to place, cross-pollinating and going from this experience to this experience, doing this job to this job, and that's okay. They can still have just as much of a rich life as the person that is very intense and this is what I wanted to be, and I always wanted to be this, and I always knew I wanted to be this. In terms of like what I learned from that podcast episode is really that not everybody is this intense, loud, proud, I've always wanted to be this, and this is what I always wanted to do, this is my passion, this is my purpose in life. Some people are hummingbirds. Like, you experience this thing, that thing informs you, and then you go to the next thing and it informs you. And even if you're not someone that knows your grand passion in life, you can live just as much of a rich and successful life and a fulfilled life than the person that always knew what they wanted to be. And at some point, even with a hummingbird, you might even realize that with all these experiences, they lead you to this one place and you're like, oh, this is what it was all for. And obviously I'm only 22, I don't know, I haven't experienced enough life to be given advice necessarily in that way, but I don't even think this is an advice thing. I just think this is a perspective thing, and I honestly feel like this is going to help me so much alleviate the pressure and the stress and the burden of like I'm a failure because I don't know what my purpose is. Nah, fam, you can leave that at the door. Leave that at the door. And then if that wasn't enough, I was reading Michelle Obama's book, Becoming, and I think it was on page, I don't even remember where it was. Between page 132 and 133. Obviously different people get different things, so I want to read it all, and then I'm going to tell you what I got from it and what triggered me. Okay, cool. So let me start from page 131. It's like right at the bottom. All this inborn confidence was admirable, of course, but honestly, try living with it. For me, coexisting with Barack's strong sense of purpose, sleeping in the same bed with it, sitting at the breakfast table with it, was something to which I had to adjust. Not because he flaunted it exactly, but because it was so alive. In the presence of his certainty, his notion that he could make some sort of difference in the world, I couldn't help but feel a little bit lost by comparison. His sense of purpose seemed like an unwitting challenge to my own. Hence the journal. On the very first page, in careful handwriting, I spelled out my reasons for starting it. 1. I feel very confused about where I want my life to go. What kind of person do I want to be? How do I want to contribute to the world? 2. I'm getting very serious in my relationship. 2. I'm getting very serious in my relationship with Barack, and I feel that I need to get a better handle on myself. I read those lines today and see exactly what I was trying to tell myself. What a no-nonsense female mentor might have said to me directly. Really, it was simple. The first thing was that I hated being a lawyer. I wasn't suited to the work. I felt empty doing it, even if I was plenty good at it. This was a distressing thing to admit, given how hard I'd worked and how in debt I was. In my blinding drive to excel, in my need to do things perfectly, I'd missed the signs and taken the wrong road. The second was that I was deeply, delightfully in love with a guy whose forceful intellect and ambition could possibly end up swallowing mine. I saw it coming already, like a barreling wave with a mighty undertow. I wasn't going to get out of its path. I was too committed to Barack by then, too in love, but I did need to quickly anchor myself on 2 feet. This meant finding a new profession, and what shook me most was that I had no concrete ideas about what I wanted to do. Somehow, in all my years of schooling, I hadn't managed to think through my own passions and how they might match up with work I found meaningful. As a young person, I'd explored exactly nothing. Barack's maturity, I realised, came in part from the years he'd logged as a community organiser, and even prior to that, a decidedly unfulfilling year he'd spent as a researcher at a Manhattan business consulting firm immediately after college. He tried out some things, gotten to know all sorts of people, and learned his own priorities along the way. I, meanwhile, had been so afraid of floundering, so eager for respectability and a way to pay the bills, that I'd marched myself unthinkingly into the law. Bro, let me tell you what stood out to me, yeah? I feel very confused about where I want my life to go. What kind of person do I want to be? How do I want to contribute to the world? Those are the kind of questions that you always ask yourself when you're trying to figure out what your purpose and your passion is in life. And when those questions can't be answered, and when you feel like you're constantly asking yourself those questions and you're like, God, give me a sign, or you know, you try to think, okay, maybe this is the career path for me, but then when you really think about it, you're just like, nah. Those are the kind of questions you ask yourself, and that's where that pressure comes from, because you're asking yourself these questions that ultimately you don't have the answer to, because you don't know. There may not be one grand thing that you're passionate about. And that's why I feel like that follow your curiosity from the podcast, like with what I'm reading from this book, it just ties in so neatly, because you can see it practically live out how she said Barack, yeah, maturity came from his years he logged as a community organizer, and before that being a researcher, and how he tried out some things, gotten to know all sorts of people, and learned his own priorities along the way. Because as you're following your curiosity, you realize what you like, what you don't like, and that informs your decisions of what you want to be and what you want to do. I think all in all I really want to say is we need to alleviate the pressure off ourselves, because I don't think that it's necessary. If we're really introspective about ourselves, I think we would know if we're the kind of person that's the jackhammer and is all or nothing, and there's this one thing and that's all we want to do. Some people, they're just afraid to admit that they don't want to put all their cards on that one thing, but some people, it's just that there is not that one thing. You know, I think both people can and have been successful. Sometimes we're watching people, which makes us feel unsuccessful, and makes us feel bad, and it puts that pressure on us. But honestly, the only path you can follow is your own. Like legit, if you read, like really and truly, you can't come and kill yourself trying to follow someone else's path, and comparing yourself to them in that way, which is obviously, and I'll always say it's easier said than done. That's just my message. Relax your nerves. It's okay, it's okay. Sometimes these big grand questions that we ask ourselves don't help us at all. Like this, what do I want to be in my life? What do I want to do in my life? Sometimes it's such an overwhelming question. It's such an overwhelming question. It's such a pressurizing question that it's just like, sometimes if it's doing nothing but causing you stress, eradicate that question. Just eradicate that question. And just, what am I curious about? Ease yourself in. Like, we have to be more gentle with ourselves, because this world that we're living in will not come and kill us, you know. Like, we actually didn't choose to be born here, so why not be gentle about the journey that we have? I think sometimes people mistake gentleness and trying to be still and figuring things out for being lazy, and it's just like, no, that's not lazy. Actually, sometimes that is braver than just pursuing something and putting all your eggs in that basket, and then because you're in it, you're too scared to get out of it, because it's making you a lot of money, or because the status of it and the influence. Do you know what I mean? Like, because of the things that are attached to it, you're too scared to actually be like, this ain't actually it, chief. But because of embarrassment, because of fear, because of rejection, because of all those things, feeling like a failure and all those kind of things, I think that pressure of, by this age and by this time, I need to have it all figured out and I need to be in this wonderful whatever. No, enjoy every experience and every opportunity, I think, because it will inform you. And like in the book, because obviously the camera cut out, so I don't really know what I got up to, what Michelle said about the fact that Barack had a very fulfilling year being a community organizer, and then having a very unfulfilling year being a business researcher for some firm or something. But both of those experiences informs him in what he wants to do. So the good experiences and the bad experiences are both as useful, and they're both as necessary. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's both as useful and both necessary. Obviously when you're in it, it's shit, but it's necessary in informing your decisions. And if you don't experience it a lot, like what Michelle was saying when she was like, wow, I'm really holding the book upside down. I hadn't managed to think through my own passions and how they might match up with work I found meaningful. As a young person, I'd explored exactly nothing. Like, think about it. How much have you actually explored? Like, how many of the things that you're interested in and that you're curious about have you actually explored? She said Barack, he'd tried out some things, gotten to know all sorts of people and learned his own priorities along the way. I, meanwhile, had been so afraid of floundering, so eager for respectability and a way to pay the bills, that I'd marched myself unthinkingly into the law. And you see, when you do that, when you put all your chips in that basket and you actually haven't stopped and informed yourself and gone through all these different things, you feel stuck. And that is one of my biggest fears. I think, especially now, more than failure, I don't even think that's something that I'm necessarily afraid of anymore. I think it's just this idea of being stuck, feeling like I'm in this position and I can't change it, and trying to fit purpose into this one neat box. It's not, I think I've just accepted that that's just not me. I really hope that this video has given a sense of relief, a sense of, and I can breathe, like relieve some burdens and some anxieties that you have, because honestly, that podcast and reading those pages in that book really, 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 really helped me. And if you haven't, I'd say check them both out, to be honest. And with Oprah's Soul Food Sundays, there's so many amazing guests that she's had on there, so many amazing things they talk about. Literally, if you just go up and down and just randomly select one, you'll get a gem, fam. You will get a gem. Subscribe and check out my other videos. Why not binge? Do you know what I mean? Bye.